So I'm trying a new setup for this reading. We're just going to do a brief reading today. And I have this going on. I chose a background to prevent like too much light. And this up here is where we'll show some of the cards. Probably won't have a lot of room, but that's okay. We're playing. Okay, so thank you for being here. I'm going to start by selecting a card that we'll reveal and read later in the reading from our Oracle of Pluto deck. Okay, let's see what energies are with us today. Okay, we're gonna leave this over here somewhere. All right, so I'm using my Cosmic Slumber tarot deck. Oh my gosh, this background might be a problem. It's trippy, but that's okay. Again, we're playing. I hope you can hear the audio. My AC is going off and on. Okay, what energies are with us today? Interesting. One of the only of two cards that aren't in typical tarot is coming out right away. There were two cards added to this deck, morning and night, and this one is the morning. Wish you could see it. I'm just gonna have to put it right here. The morning. It's like a new day is dawning. This person's, are they still asleep? Are they dreaming of the morning? Let's find out. And then crossed by the King of Torches, which is the King of Wands. The King of Wands. Immediately what I'm thinking of when I see these two, this morning, this dreaming of a new day dawning, and the King of Wands energy. I'm just going to put those there as I intended them to be sort of like these challenging energies. I'm going to put those right there. Meaning, when I do this, I like to think about the way two energies, what they mean and how they behave on their own, side by side, but then how they might interact in different ways to support or oppose or challenge each other, and what that means for us. This, I think of how the King of Wands is very ambitious, very like wants to just take all that passion, all that like zest for life, and put all that energy in one direction to fulfill some deep desire. I feel like some people call that passion. We might call it, oh, I feel like I have a purpose. I just gotta do something with this energy that means something. It's like a deeply meaningful, like wanting to fulfill something kind of energy. And some people call it spirit energy, the wands. The king is very like confident, very purposeful, has a lot of irons in the fire, meaning like always kind of working towards something. Maybe irons in the fire is the wrong analogy. That usually means like multitasking, but that's not the case with this, because the King of Wands is like all energy goes toward this one thing that he deeply cares about, and that he's confident that he can bring to fruition, right? This, it's funny, he has a couple cats with him. He's kind of like all these fireballs are raining down, and look at him just so confident, like leaning into them. He's facing whatever comes at him. So I think of him just with that boldness, that confidence. This kind of makes me think like this morning card isn't traditional tarot, but it makes me think about how it looks like this person is dreaming about maybe their younger self and what that younger self always looked toward, like as optimism, you know, like our younger optimistic self. Is this person is maybe hoping to get that back, maybe wanting to return to innocence and optimistic. So it almost makes me think of how sometimes our lives go down a path, like a practical path, and then we get into just swept up and they live in the day to day. Do, go, go, go. Not like mindless, but maybe passionless, or a little less than we had when in our youthful years, when everything was like all possibility. It almost makes me feel like there's a yearning to get some of that back, like getting back that just, remember when I just had so much like passion energy for all the possibilities that I could bring to fruition someday. Like the world is my oyster kind of energy. And the King of Wands is that drawing on that energy that can make that happen when we put all our energy toward that one thing versus it getting diluted with just day-to-day responsibilities. So let's clarify a little bit. We have Temperance. I'm gonna put these up here. So we have Temperance. I'm gonna pull 3 cards. We have the Queen of Wands, interesting, to complement that King. Queen of Wands. And then we have the Two of Wands. There's a lot of wand energy here. So right here in the center of our clarification is the Queen of Wands. I like to think of her as like the divine feminine, like energy of manifestation, creation energy. I don't even like to use the word manifestation anymore. It's kind of watered down these days, isn't it? It's like creation energy. And she's kind of magical that way. Where you're like, how's she doing it? I don't know. Whereas the magician, the divine masculine energy for manifestation, does it through, like, he has tools, he has formulas, potions, or whatever. He's got, like, you know, methodical ways to make it happen. He takes action steps. Whereas the Queen of Wands, you're like, I think she just wills it to happen out of her self-confidence. She has a deep belief in herself. So there's something here maybe about tapping into that self-worth to bring about, to build that energy back up of wanting, even finding what that passion is again, right? If it's waned. We have Temperance, which in general means moderation, balance. But sometimes I think of it as a deep trust in the way things are going to work out, better than you could have imagined. So that's sort of a challenging energy but I have this idea of how what I want to work out should work out. But Temperance there is to say, hold on, there are other forces at play in the universe that can help you if you let them, if we get out of the way a little bit. So it's that deep trust that once you put your energy in one direction, take the first step, and then let go of the how it should look. You know what you want, but how you get there, there are all kinds of ways to get from A to B. So this card is saying trust, a little bit of letting go, surrender if you want to use that word. And then the Two of Wands is, you know what's funny, is right before I started this video, the Two of Wands came to mind in the deck that I didn't bring. I had the image of the Two of Wands from the Light Seers Tarot, because I love that artwork. I don't know why, but the Two of Wands flashed in my mind before I started this video, and I thought, that's interesting. And what I thought about it at that point was that feeling of like, I feel pretty comfortable where I am. I'm kind of in my comfort space, and nothing's really pushing me out of that comfort space. I might hear a calling like, oh, I'm being called for that old passion energy that I felt in my youth. Like I might hear whispers of it calling to me to come out of my comfort space, but I'm still pretty cozy where I am. And that's what I was thinking of before I started this video when that Two of Wands flashed in my mind. So it's kind of funny that that showed up and that it totally makes sense with this reading. Because what's holding you back? If this reading is for you, what might be holding you back? Is it a little bit of comfort? Even if you don't feel like your life is like, oh, I'm wealthy and I've got everything I need and I don't have any worries. That's not what I'm talking about. It's the kind that says, I could keep doing what I'm doing, day in, week in and out, month in and out. That's fine. But something deep down says like, no, no, that's not really an option, right? So something says you're almost at that precipice of like leaping forward and saying, I'm gonna get a little uncomfortable, and that's okay. So it totally makes sense with the two cards we pulled, because the morning, this person who's like dreaming of what it was like to like, every day was new and fresh in our youth. Like we could do anything, be anything, go anywhere. Even if our circumstances were a little more challenging, there was still that youthful drive, you know. It just kind of sometimes gets diluted as we get older. And that if we go farther down a path, that means other paths are pruned off, right? It's like a tree. You go up the trunk and you look up the tree where there's like all these branches. You're like, oh my God, I could go wander down any of those branches. As you go up and pick a path, if you don't go backwards anyway, if you have to keep going forward, every other possibility that's already branched away is no longer available to us. That's what I think of what it feels like to get farther along in life. Like I'm middle-aged, maybe actually probably more than middle-aged. I feel like if I wanted to, I could go back to school to learn something. But the farther I go down this path, I'm like, do I really need to? Do I really want to? Will I have enough years left to like build up a body of work in that field? By the way, it's never too late. I've started my life over many times. I'm not the one to tell you like it's too late. I'm the one that's always gonna tell you it's never too late. But there's a feeling inside that we grapple with when we get farther along that path that pauses us and makes us question, is it too late? It's not. But that question appears more often the farther we go. So anyway, that's what's coming up. It's like, but how do we play with these energies that are showing up here? Something is calling us to tap into our self-worth. because that might have dwindled as well along the way, right? It's natural, especially as we start to age. That can creep in until we get to a point where that actually becomes our superpower. And I think with the Queen of Wands, that's what it's asking us to tap into, because she's like very magical, very superpowerish. So it's like tapping into the superpower that is our self-worth, our essential nature. No matter if you're male, female, whatever. Tap into the divine feminine energy within that says, I am all powerful. I can make anything happen that I want. I can create anything that I put my mind to. It's asking us to tap into our creator energy. Right? Once we figure out that it's okay to get a little uncomfortable along the way, we need to define what it is we want. We need to define it boldly. And then get out of the way of how it should look, right? If you're talking about your own creativity, it means, okay, get out all your supplies, right, of your chosen craft and get to it. Just start playing. Wipe away any expectation of what it's supposed to look like. Especially if you have perfectionist tendencies, get rid of them. Get out of the way. So I think this King of Wands, just remember, his reminder is, by the way, this one's like, keep dreaming, keep tapping into that youthful energy. And then put all that energy in one direction. This is calling for us to stop diluting our energy with too many irons in the fire, to bring that analogy back around. It's warning against that. Put it all in one direction. Take a step, get a little uncomfortable, and then surrender the how. So that's the story today. So let's reveal our card. We have the goose. All of these cards, by the way, in this deck are shadow puppets. So we have the goose. Let's read the goose. By the way, this is always challenging to find what page. Oh, never mind. It's the first one I looked at. Page 18. These aren't in alphabetical order. That's why it was going to be hard to find it. And it was like, no. It's the first one you looked at. So I'm going to read this. It says, goose. The meaning is a warning. Interesting. If you've ever crossed paths with a goose, you've likely experienced or seen their absolute ferocity at work. A threatened goose will honk loudly, hiss, and even chase somebody down if they're moved too far into the goose's territory. Despite their regal appearance, they are not to be trifled with. To pull this card is to receive a warning. You are in dangerous territory and it's time to check yourself. If we're being honest, this card shouldn't come as much of a surprise. You've likely known the entire time that you are doing something you probably shouldn't. Maybe there is something taboo about the circumstance that made it feel fun, exciting, and new. We all enjoy being naughty from time to time. Maybe you've wandered here innocently and now find yourself in a bad situation. Regardless, you are on the verge of being found out. Heed the warning of this card and take a step back. If there is corrective action you can take, now is the time. If not, do your best to remove yourself from the situation before you or anyone else gets hurt. When things come to a head, if you're still around, it's likely you will be met with the unbridled ferocity of a territorial goose. Further reflection. There's a hot debate over whether morality is objective or subjective. What we think is okay or good or fair or right likely varies from what others perceive. Sometimes it can be difficult to know where the line is between your desire, your life, and someone else's. It can be a delicate balancing act. If you've engaged in a scenario in which the issue of right versus wrong feels murky, guilting or shaming yourself will make only the answer more elusive. Instead, think of the adage, treat others how you'd like to be treated. Put yourself in their shoes. How would you feel on the other side? Well, I wonder how that's related to today's reading, if at all. This might be specific to one person out there, I don't know. But it also, like, what I thought of when I read that is how we, like, that whole idea of right and wrong and shaming ourselves, that kind of came up in my reflection this morning walking the beach on A Course in Miracles. I reflect on those every day this year. And it was, what came up for me is like this idea that shame is always there. We're gonna have to deal with it at some point. We might have a lot of layers before we can access the shame piece. We need to feel it to go through it, but don't latch on too tightly and keep shaming ourselves. And I think that's what this Queen of Wands is saying too. Like, it's easy to shame the Divine Feminine. It's so easy to link shame with the Divine Feminine, because, because she turns that into her superpower, because she alchemizes it, she works through it and with it, and turns it into she finds her self-worth through it. Her self-worth is hiding there underneath it all too. So I would maybe think about that in terms of this reading. What are we having to deal with? What kind of shame are we having to deal with, so that we can even start to tap into our self-worth? Because the shame might suppress the self-worth. There's a lot on top of shame, and what's hiding underneath it is our self-worth. Once we deal with the shame, peel that off, deal with it, alchemize it, we can tap into the self-worth. So anyway, that's today's reading. Thank you for being here. Do you hear the rain? I'm in Costa Rica right now.